Hi, this is Stephanie Skinner and from Culture Media, and we are here to talk about Holland's family cheese. And we're going to be meeting with Marika and Laurie. And I am going to be moderating and looking at your questions as they come up. Feel free to post them at any time. We may not get to them at that moment, but we will have some time for questions at the end. If we don't get to all of your questions today, Marika or Laurie will be answering them directly to you afterwards. And one of the other things we love to hear during this is your suggestions for pairing what you've done with these gorgeous cheeses. Thoughts about the taste or anything like that that you want to share with us. We are all ears. So first and foremost, I'm going to introduce you to Molly Brown from the Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin. And she's going to talk a little bit about that and then introduce our cheesemakers. Take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Steph. And hello to all of our attendees out there around the world. Hope everybody's having a great Monday. And thanks for joining us for another DFW virtual counterculture. So I know, we can't meet in person this year. I feel like at this point, the whole cheese industry would be so sick of seeing each other. After all of the shows and events and all the fun stuff we get to do together all year. So this is a great way for us to be able to connect in spite of it all. So thank you guys all for showing up. It's great to see so many familiar names here on the attendee list. So so my name is Molly Brown. I'm the education manager for the Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin. I've been in the role for just about a year, and if education manager for a marketing arm of a dairy industry sounds like a dream job. I'm here to tell you it pretty much is. So I was really lucky to end up with the Dairy Farmers. I grew up here in Wisconsin, so it was only natural that my cheese career would eventually lead me back to work with cheesemakers in my own state. So, and here in Wisconsin, we have obviously, a huge number of cheesemakers. We make over 600 styles of cheeses here. And I think it's 1,200 licensed cheesemakers in our state. So, definitely have the pick of the litter when it comes to choosing who to work with for these type of events. So I am really excited to share with you guys today the story of Marika, who may need no introduction. She is a force to be reckoned with in the industry and just has a wonderful story to share with you guys today. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Marika and her team up in Thorpe, Wisconsin.
Hey, hello everyone. We are very excited to be with you today.
We sure are, and thank you for your time, and thank you for letting me talk about I have the best job in the whole wide world, I think. I get to work with cows, and then we are able to make that wonderful product that they produce, milk, into a wonderful cheese, and then I get to work with all the wonderful people in the cheese industry. So, and today I can talk a little bit about myself. Laurie's gonna put up the PowerPoint presentation. I hope everybody can see it.
Here we go. We're gonna share our screen.
So again, my name is Marieke Penterman, and that's where somebody suggested that we should name the cheese after the cheesemaker. So that's how we ended up with Marieke Gouda. When I start talking, people often ask me where I'm from, and I always say very proudly, I'm from Thorpe, Wisconsin. And then I get that funny look like, that doesn't make sense. So apparently I've not mastered the Wisconsin accent yet. I am born and raised in a tiny little country that fits about 4 or 5 times in the state of Wisconsin. And I was born on a dairy farm. My parents were milking cows, and the family farm is still existing, and my brother took it over. So here you see a picture of me on one of the cattle shows. My father was big in cattle shows. He loved his Holstein cows with my wooden shoes. So you see I have wooden shoes on, which Holland is very well known for the wooden shoes, the windmill, the tulips, and the cheese. So when I made the move to Wisconsin, and we ended up in Wisconsin because of the dairy infrastructure and the people, the wonderful people here. So we ended up here in Wisconsin, and No, I lost my thought of that. Well, anyway, so ended up here. So when I was looking around, I couldn't find Gouda. And I went to the store and I found lots of wonderful cheese, cheddar and Colby and cheese curds, which is still an interesting thing. But no Gouda. So I would always ask family and friends if they could bring around Gouda. And due to restriction by the custom getting tougher and tougher, my supply of cheese got less and less. So that was a serious problem. On the other hand, I also wanted to start my own business before I turned 30, and the clock was ticking. So after, so we had those things, and I wanted to start my own business. So when one night I was tossing and turning, and I'm like, what could it be, you know? So I heard a cow calving on the farm, and I'm like, that's it. We have the good Wisconsin milk. I'm missing my cheese from Holland, and my supply of cheese is getting less and less. So not knowing what I got myself into, I just called DBIC, Dairy Business Innovation Center. They are an organization that unfortunately they had to close their doors already, but would help people with a farmstead idea. And they told me to go and get my cheesemaker's license. Like Molly said, we have here in Wisconsin, I think we're the only state on planet Earth that's actually requiring a cheesemaker's license, and that's the state I ended up in. So I had to go back to school. At that time, we had 3 children, and so they had to go to the babysitter for the first time, and I had to do a 240-hour apprenticeship, and then I had to do 5 courses. And because I had no idea how to make cheese, the only thing is I thought, well, we're gonna go and make a little bit of cheese. So then finally I got my cheesemaker's license in October 2006, and in November we had this little retail creamery right on the farm established. And on 22 November 2006, I made my very first batch of Gouda, which I did go back to Holland twice to work along. One day with a lady that had 10 cows, and one day on a dairy farm that had 200 cows. And I looked upon, they both had a little bit of different recipe of Gouda, and I twisted and turned a little bit and took the best, I think, out of both and added a little bit of my own Marika touch to it. And that's how we came up with the Marika Gouda recipe. So then that was in 2006, and then within, I will go further. First, what you see here, by the way, you see here our current location, because after 10 years, we kind of outgrew our previous location, and we moved to our current location, right by the highway 29. And you see the building, the first building is our creamery. And the building there on the side, that's the dairy farm. Behind there, we have a whole freestall barn. But people can come and they can look and see, can cuddle with the cows and snuggle with the calves, I always say. But you can see how we milk the cows, and then the milk goes straight through a pipeline under the ground into our cheese fat. And then it continues in the creamery, where you can see how we turn that milk into a bundle of joy cheese, and how we age it, how it goes into the brine. We get about 150 to 160,000 people every year that come and want to educate themselves. And that is a huge accomplishment, or that is fun to see how people come and enjoy and see what we as dairy farmers do, because we don't always have the best reputation. And we didn't become a dairy farmer because we hate cows. Well, who becomes an accountant when you hate numbers, or a hair cutter if you hate working with hair? So we love our cows. At the end, it's still a business, but we gave all our cows a name. And you can see right now in our freestall barn, those are our Gouda ladies. They all have a name. We have a mixture between half of our herd is a Holstein breed. Then we have a quarter is brown Swiss, and then we have another quarter that's actually a mixture of everything. So every time a cow calves, it's always like Christmas, unwrapping a present, and it's just funky, all different colors and the different personalities. And in general, the brown Swiss are a little bit more an outgoing breed, where Holstein will say, let's shake hands first, which is very good now in these times. And Brown Swiss will say, come here and let's cuddle. So it's just fun to see it and show people all the different breeds. And yeah, the Holsteins in general are good more for volume of milk, where the Brown Swiss will have a little bit more higher fat and protein. So here you see some of the Gouda ladies being milked. We milk 3 times a day, 5 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and 9 o'clock in the evening. So we have a freestyle barn, and it's a double 12 herringbone system. The dairy industry is very innovative and wants to think very efficient, everything with the cow in mind and for the employee or the team member. So the herringbone, the milker is on level that you don't have to bend anymore. Or where you had in the old days all extension barn where the milker, the farmer had to go through his knees and replacing one hip after the other. Now it's becoming more animal and also the farmer friendly, I always say. On top of that, going back, you don't have to go back, but in our barn, and I hope that everybody, some might have already visited us, but if you haven't, you really have to put us on your bucket list. Then you can see how we have, I always call it the cow spa. So the cows lay in sand, just like we enjoy laying on the beach. The cows do enjoy laying on the sand too. We have a sprinkle system. So when it's really warm weather, the cows get sprayed down. We have a cow brush. So when you're itchy, you know, they can go and get itched. So we have a lot of those things. Then we also have, the Fitbit system. Thank you for pointing that out, Laurie. So you see on the screen that there is an orange thing. That's our Fitbit system. So it helps us to manage and to monitor our cows and to make sure that the ladies are feeling really good. And if we miss something, that we also have the system to point it out. So this system constantly corresponds with the computer in the office. And then it will give us on the screen, you will see, for an example, orange will that's an attention. Well, check out the cow, maybe her temperature is a little bit higher, or she hasn't been eating. And then we have a green button, a green alarm too. That means that the cow is gonna have a date that day. So, so that Fitbit helps us to make sure that we're on top of the cow's health. Sometimes we get even too much information. And because we all have sometimes a day that we're off, but we're right on top of it. So here you see the milk. So when the cows get milk, their milk goes straight through a pipe system under the ground into a cheese vat. So our cheese vat is about 4,000 liter, roughly about 3,600 liter we add on to it. So 8,000 pounds or 1,000 gallons. So all the different measurements. We pride ourselves that we have one of the freshest products that you can have. So the milk gets made into cheese within 5 hours after it left the cow's udder. And after we're done with our recipe, Gouda is a water wash curd, like you probably all know. So I always call myself, I'm not a science cheesemaker. I'm a lucky cheesemaker. So I like to feel the curd, and the curd will tell me when it's ready to be pumped over to the drain table. Behind me, you have Natalie. Another thing I'm very proud of is that Martha and Natalie are also licensed cheesemakers. So we have 3 female licensed cheesemakers here. And I promise you, I do not discriminate against the guys, but we are a very female-oriented, by accident team. Laurie here is our manager, director of sales. But we have some wonderful guys that, I don't know, I think they stick around because they like the women. I don't know. Anyway, so after the cheese curds are ready, the cheese curds get pumped into the drain table. And then after when they're in the drain table, we let them sit there for about 10 minutes under stainless steel plates. The curd is still very fragile, so they attach very easily to each other. And then we cut blocks. Even though the Gouda has a round shape, we cut blocks because we don't want little bits and pieces that can capture air between it. So we have the blocks and we put them, the corners will touch then the inside of the mold, and then from there they go into under the press for 2 hours. After that, they go into the brine. The brine has a couple purposes, and it's especially for the salt distribution, but it also helps, it's a preservative thing, and then it also helps us develop a rind, a sturdier rind around the cheese. Because in the early, that's one of my least favorite jobs, is putting the cheese in the brine. I don't know, it's maybe the electricity button that I don't always trust. But so in the earlier days, when I would even take my kids even into the production room, and Dean was in his stroller and he was a little bit whining, and I'm like, that's good. You're gonna be my excuse for tonight. I'm gonna ask Rolf to put the cheese in the brine because you're hungry. You need to go home. So I called Rolf. I said, could you maybe put the cheese in the brine because the kids are hungry. I need to go. I have everything ready. I have it sitting just like there. You see on the background where the cheese is just sitting on the brine racks. And with Rolf, he does a lot of things, but like there's like 10 things that always come between it. So when he came in the house finally that evening, he says, what happened with the cheese? I said, how do you mean what happened with the cheese? He says, well, like flat pancakes. So we learned again that if the brine helps to make sure that the cheese has a sturdier rind, and if you let it sit like there and you wouldn't put it right away in the brine, they become like flat pancakes. The cheese was still very good, and I sold every piece of it, so all went well. But live and learn, right? Just to go back to, so you see the Gouda has a round shape, and that's how you can recognize the Gouda. A lot of the imported Goudas from Holland has the red wax around it. I have to tell you, being from Holland, you will never see red wax Goudas in the store unless you are in a very touristic area, but otherwise you will not see the red wax Gouda. So they will use it to protect the cheese during transportation when they export it, or they will keep the wax, doesn't let the cheese breathe. So they will keep it to keep that age that you had ordered, that you will have the young Gouda. So we have a breathable coating around our cheese, so it will let the cheese breathe as it ages, and it will lose moisture. So with the wax, the moisture can come through our cheese, and I think that's where you get a more dense flavor in the cheese too. When the moisture comes up, it gets more complexer as the moisture leaving the cheese. The reason why the Gouda has a round shape wheel, maybe some of you know, is that in the earlier days when they would transport the cheese from one harbor to the other, instead of walking down the plank, they would roll the cheese. And then another fun fact about Gouda is that here in Wisconsin, we're all called cheese hats. Probably every American is called a cheese hat. And if you don't like cheese, you probably didn't come from here. But in Holland, they are called cheese hats too. And the reason why they are called cheese hats in Holland is that in the earlier days when the Dutch would go to war, and you saw those plastic round molds, they were made out of wood, and the Dutch would use those as a helmet. I'm not sure how bulletproof they are, but many people survive because we have like 18 million people in Holland. So the survival rate was pretty high, I bet. Okay, here's our aging room. So you see our affinage in the back, Jake, and all the cheeses here have their own unique identification code. The first 14 days, after 60 hours of brine, after 2.5 hours a day, 60 hours in the brine, the cheese goes into the aging room. You see here our pine woods boards. So the first 14 days after they come from out of the brine, they go always on these boards, but we take them off the boards, we flip them, we first coat them, by the way, we coat them, every cheese gets 2 layers, and then after the first 14 days, we flip them, we clean them with water and vinegar, and then we put them on an empty shelf above or under it. After that shelf is empty, we sanitize the shelf, because I believe, well, this is the way it's been talked about it, that people then, the FDA didn't thought it was a good way of aging. We have done this for centuries. It's a very safe way of aging your cheeses. You just have to put the right protocols in place. There is no danger at all. We actually need it. It's much safer. If we would replace these boards for stainless steel boards, I think we're really playing Russian roulette. because then the moisture that comes out of the cheese, and our aging room is between the 50 and 55 Fahrenheit. So it's an ideal situation for trapped moisture to grow things that we don't want there. So these wooden shelves actually help us, and it will even regulate our aging room. So our aging room is also between the 75 and 80% of humidity. Did I say right? I'm tripling over my English words today. Anyway, so there's a lot of love, tender, and care in these aging room. Right now, our current aging room holds about 9,000 reels, and we are looking at expanding. And the next expansion is like for 80% of aging room. So there's a lot of cheese that we can fill. So award winning. So after we started on 22 November 2006, within the first 4 or 5 months, we got our first award, and that's with our Fenugreek Gouda. We got a gold in at that point, because it was in 2007, in the open semi category, and our Fenugreek right away captured gold in the biggest category there was. And I had no idea what that meant or what it would entail, but yes, we kind of got bombarded with orders, and within a year and a half, we already we went from my 1,500 liter cheese fat, we went straight to this at this point still 4,000 liter cheese fat. So we already won over 166 awards we have at this point. Some of the bigger ones were, then my first award is always one of my biggest one, I believe. We captured in 2014, I believe, in the aged Gouda category. We entered 4 cheeses. We were 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st, and that at the World Cheese Competition against all the Dutchies. We kind of beat them. And we were so happy because if there's something wrong, well, because we do work with raw milk, and even though it's a safe product, because we tested, I always say we have the circle complete on our farm. You always work with, there's always something or something in it. Not that it's harmful or anything, but raw milk Gouda or raw milk products have a little bit of higher challenge to work with. And then also in the age category, if something goes wrong, you will not taste that right away, but when it's young, when it's smooth and creamy, but as it ages, the defect can come out and have a little off flavor. So to win that award as a small farmstead creamery here with raw milk, and to win the first 4 places, I still think that's one of the biggest accomplishments we could have ever done. We were also nominated at the Wisconsin State Fair, the first female cheesemaker that won an award there in 2011. In 2013, we were nominated Best Cheese in America. So, and that was pretty cool. We were, I think, 5 times in the top 3 in the last 8 years at the US Cheese Championship, and that's a pretty big deal. Being this year, we were second and third, the second and third prize. So they call it like the first and second runner-up. But yeah, so we didn't get the grand prize, unfortunately. We lost it from a tiny little baby Swiss vacuum packed. Okay, let's not go there. Anyway, so in 2013, we were nominated Best Cheese in America. And with that, we qualified for the extraordinary ability route, because it's very impossible to get a green card. And we would have never gotten a green card if we would not have won the title Best Cheese in America in 2013. So now I don't have to hide in basements anymore. And Laurie doesn't have to supply me secretly with some spotted cow. Anyway, so we are very, so that also gave me the green card, the mature Marieke Gouda.
Which we're going to be, this is the first cheese that we're going to try today. So the mature Gouda is always aged 6 to 9 months. For all of our plain Goudas, there's 7 different levels, the youngest being that 2 to 4 months, because we have to have a 60-day age on anything we ship with the raw milk. And the oldest would be a 2-year plus. This is our top seller overall. So we always like to start our tastings with a plain Gouda because it's our base formula.
Yes, indeed. So, and it's so fun with the Goudas too, because it's so pleasing for any age or any palate, because you can enjoy it when it's young and it is more smoothie and creamy, and then it becomes a little bit more complexer as it ages. So, and this mature is just perfect there in the middle. So it's rich and full, and it just has a hint of more complexity than the young Gouda. Let's try.
Okay, I'm in.
I skipped ahead. I already tried. It's delicious.
I also just want to let the attendees know that if they want to ask questions, please use the Q&A button that should be either at the top of your screen or to the right. And again, I'll be looking at them as we go along. And then we will have a question and answer time.
So I've been having a lot of good success lately with the pairing Halloween candy and cheese theme. And honestly, it was the Marika Mature Gouda that really kicked that off for me. I paired it over the summer for a class with a payday. And it was like such a good pairing. And I've used it like 100 times. And I was in Forbes last week talking more about Halloween and cheese pairings. So, you know, pretty feather in my career cap there. And honestly, that is such a good pairing. It's almost like the whole effect of that one kind of creates this like peanut buttery, like cheesecake effect in the palate. Like the sweet and the savory really work there. But today I paired mine with some dried mango coated in chili. I'm doing a little pairing exercise today, experimenting with different levels of spice, like spiciness. Not just spiciness, but like the feeling of heat on your palate when you're eating. So that was the first thing I tried it with, and it was really good. And then I washed it down with a little ginger beer, which is also excellent. So that was my pairing of the day.
This cheese is, so you can use it for everything, and thank you for the suggestions. And it's good, well, when the neighbors come over, or you know, with a glass of wine or beer. But you can dip it in mustard, or you can cook with it wonderful too. Grilled cheese sandwich and tomato soup, you know, that's one of my favorite things. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I agree. This cheese is really easy to pair. One of the things we like to do is pair it with any type of preserves. We have like a jalapeno raspberry preserve in our store, and complements this cheese very well. We also like the traditional pairings of the dried fruits and the nuts. It's a fun
I just
cheese.
want to say I'm having so much fun. So thank you for inviting me already. I waited to the end to thank you for this, but this is so wonderful, and I miss everybody at the shows, and so this is wonderful. But okay, that was a side note.
So the next one we're going to pair is our honey clover. And this one has been our pandemic cheese. And for whatever reason, this cheese is snuck into the top 5 and is giving our Fenugreek, Fenugreek has always been our top selling flavored cheese. This one is now giving it a run for its money. And we think for a couple of reasons. It's really a down-to-earth cheese. It's sweet, it has earthy tones. It's really simple to understand. And what we've found with a lot of our cheese shops where they can't sample our cheese because of the pandemic, this one is a much easier sell to customers because you don't have to explain the flavor profile, such as in our Fenugreek. And we're going to try that one so you'll understand why.
Yeah, and it's a very plain, basic cheese, very earthy. It has the appearance from our burning nettle melange, but if you close your eyes, you do have the nutty sweetness flavor from the Fenugreek. So it actually, in taste profile, it's pretty close to Fenugreek, and maybe try it at home too, even though they don't look at each other. But yeah, 2020 definitely is the honey clover year. And we have had this cheese for quite a while, but all of a sudden it took off.
Yes.
Very interesting. Our cheeses are very simple, are very pure, I always say. It's just milk, cultures, rennet, and then we have the ingredients. So it's very, we don't use any colorings or preservatives. And so, yeah, a very plain product.
So you're going to notice the sweetness in the cheese, and a lot of people ask us if there's honey in the cheese, and there's no honey. All that sweetness is coming from the clover that we add.
And pair with the apple is really good.
Yes, the crisp apple, Riesling.
That is delicious.
Yeah,
I
I tried mine with a pear. I thought it was wonderful with a pear.
Mhm.
I haven't tried that cheese before. It's so good. I
Yeah.
paired it with the treat spiced almonds.
Oh, yum.
An apple, delightful spiced almonds. Got a little bit of sesame and like a little bit of a subtle heat to it. So when I went to this one, I was thinking of like a sweet heat sort of a thing, and the herbaceousness of the clover really plays into that.
That is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So we're gonna move on to bacon. For those of you that are close with Marika, you know that after Gouda, her second favorite food is bacon. So we have an amazing bacon Gouda. Part of the reason I like this cheese personally is a lot of the bacon cheeses out there are processed cheese, and we're of course an all natural cheese. So we think that the natural cheese and bacon is a perfect combination right from the start. And the other thing that's extra special about this cheese is in 2000 or this year we switched to a no nitrate bacon. So the bacon we use is preserved with fruit and spice extracts. It's actually made right down the road.
Yes, and everything in balance. So I have to be kind of pick about that, but I put way too much bacon in it. So we really had to put the bacon down, and still it's full of bacon, but we had to reduce the bacon a little bit. But it's a wonderful combination. Again, one of those treasures. Our local butcher is like a fifth generation butcher already, and they put our cheese in their products, so we put some of their products in our cheese, and it's wonderful on a grilled cheese again. So you don't have the mess of cooking or frying the bacon. We all did it for you. Well, actually not us, Lindsay does it. We just order it, and there she comes, smelling like one walking bacon, and then she brings all the bacon that we'll add to the batch the next day after it cooled for a night. So great on a hamburger if you want to double up on it. It's delicious.
Yeah. What I like about this cheese is you can make a grilled cheese, a bacon grilled cheese, and you don't even have to add any bacon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's my favorite things to do with this cheese. This cheese also is a 2020 bestseller, I'd say. It's really taken off in sales after it won a gold in the ACS competition last summer.
So when we started a couple years ago, we started adding bacon, and the rule in our company is people in our team, everybody can pick a wheel that they think is going to be the next champion. So everybody picks a wheel, and so we entered the bacon Gouda under Lindsay's name from the butcher. She took over her family butcher business. And I said, well, if it wins something, Lindsay, because that's one of the rules too, when people pick a wheel, they have to go upstage and pick up the award. So Lindsay had to go upstage, and like, me? I said, yeah, you go up there. So Lindsay went upstairs and got her bacon award, bacon Gouda award. So it was fun. It's a family affair, I always say.
Did you try it?
Well, I think you have the right idea to pair that one with the spotted cow. I don't have that pairing in front of me, but I can imagine it really works.
I should have sent you some. I'm sorry, Molly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any excuse.
We're pairing all the cheese with spotted cow today.
Yeah,
So-
kind of
Mhm.
boring.
I like how like authentically bacony that one is, like, but without being overpowering or like having a gross quality to it. I hate to say it like that, but about like the way that flavor could influence a natural cheese like that, and you could see something like bacon really overwhelming it, like becoming too much. But this is like beautifully balanced, and you get just the right amount of bacon to balance out that cheese. It's delicious.
I like to always call that out. I think Marika and the team have done a really good job of always balancing the flavor with the cheese. So one of the things, I had mentioned earlier that we always like to start with our plain Goudas when we start the sampling, and then because then you know what to expect when you're tasting the flavored cheeses. But one thing that the team has mastered is really that balance, because you can always taste the cheese and the flavor will never, ever overpower it.
Well, we kind of failed on the bacon. We really have to adjust that.
I think we're okay. Everybody loves bacon. So.
No, it was too much.
True.
It is very tricky, and it's a live and learn thing. We were pretty lucky that we got it down, but as the cheese is younger, you know, you want to add more. You want to add more, but it's a tricky part because when the cheese ages, the flavor of the cheese comes through, and you cannot take some flavoring out of the cheese. And then the other thing is also with competitions, the judges always say too much condiments, too much. But then the customer says, it's not enough. Where is the condiments? Where is the flavor? So it's always the balance between young cheese, aged cheese, competitions, customers, and then the different flavors. One flavor ages out much better than the other one. Certain flavors, you don't want them to go past 4 or 6 months. And other ones are just only becomes better as it ages. So the cumin is really good, I think, and burning melange, those are very, or the black pepper mix, that's a really good one too. But who knows? It's not a very well-known cheese yet, but maybe 2021. Black pepper mix with a beer is a really good combination.
So the next one we're going to sample is our Fenugreek. The Fenugreek is, I like to say, is our signature cheese, and for a couple of reasons. One, we spell it different from everyone else in the world, and we've had questions about that too. And so it's just kind of a funny story. And Marika actually thought this is the way you spelt it. Then she won that award 4 months after making cheese, and we stuck with it, and it works for us because when you Google our Fenugreek, it's the only Fenugreek cheese that comes up.
Yeah. Yeah, I was not aware of that. So I read them up as I was making cheese. It was very busy. What can I say?
She's a busy mom of 5 making cheese. So let's talk about this one, Marika.
Why are we already half of the samples gone, Laurie?
Because it's my favorite cheese, and this is the reason I came to work for Marika.
I love this cheese too.
I do too.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was actually, I didn't came up with myself when I was in Holland working along with the lady that 10 cows for a day. I tried some other cheeses, and Fenugreek was one of them. And when we started, I had a gentleman coming to help me install the equipment, and he said, why would you want to make Fenugreek? That's no good. And I didn't listen to him. I don't like it. So I made it anyway, and I rubbed it in every time I see him. The Fenugreek. Why would I make it? Because it's our signature cheese. Oh, it won many awards. 14 awards. I didn't keep track of that. Sometimes I wouldn't even enter it because it was very successful, and I wanted other cheeses to have a chance. So anyway.
So this one's going to taste sweet and nutty, and that's all coming from that Fenugreek seed. And we cook that seed the day before we actually make the cheese. And when we cook it, it actually smells kind of bitter.
Yeah.
But when we add it to the cheese curd, it sweetens the cheese and makes it taste like it has maple syrup in it.
It does.
Yes.
And cut up in pancake batter, and then some maple drizzled over the pancake with melted Fenugreek Gouda is a really good suggestion. I do have to say, one time we had people that are addicted to Fenugreek, so they will come to the store and they're really upset when it's not there. And I always think, oh, please, I don't want to. Well, you don't want to lose customers. And I'm like, there they go. And then they get very upset, and then they go, okay, when is it back? Then I will be back. And then they always come back, and they love it. Our dog loves it too. So one time when we were low again and we had no Fenugreek, the kids wanted the Fenugreek. I said, okay, we can go to this store that I know. They might have a piece. We went to a couple stores, and we found one pie cut in this store, and I had my hoodie on. I didn't want them to recognize, thinking that it's that desperate with us that I'm trying to buy my own cheese back in stores. And so we're checking out this tiny little pie cut, and we're leaving the store, and the lady behind the counter says, see you next time, Marika. So I'm like getting in the car. The kids run upstairs, putting their pajama on. I'm cutting up the cheese. I go to the living room. And as I walk out the living room, the dog, or dog buddy, walks into the living room. I go and get the drinks for the kids. I walk back, and the dog crosses me again. And I look at the plate, and I'm like, hey, kids, did you eat it? The dog ate it all. So the dog loves our Fenugreek too.
I'm about to drop this curd nerd fact into the chat for you guys, but the reason that maple and fenugreek taste similar to each other is because they share, they have like a common aroma compound that's highly present in both of them. That's called sotalone. So of course, you know, when you're thinking of like pairing theory and you think about layering aroma compounds to really amplify the flavor of something, that's one of the reasons that maple and fenugreek work so well together.
That is our nerd
Thank
moment.
you.
That's
Thank
very
you.
interesting.
Nerd moment of the
Thank you
day.
so much, Molly.
Yeah.
Yes,
We're gonna get you a
Learn
pocket.
every day.
Yeah, we do. So our fifth cheese
too.
we're trying is our smoked cumin Gouda. This one highlights both the cumin seeds and also our smoking. We naturally smoke it over hickory wood, not just down the road from us also. This one actually placed in the top 20 at the World Cheese Championship. It was the last time all of us were together before the pandemic. So
Yeah. So our smoked cumin, we have both. We have them both separate too. We have then a smoked, and we have a cumin Gouda. And many years ago, one of our team members said, "Can we not combine this? Can we not put a smoked cumin?" And I want to point out, because Molly said the other day too, it's not the cumin that is smoked. The cheese is smoked. So what we do is we make a traditional Gouda cumin, and then before we put a layer of coating on, we send it to the smoker, and that's where the cheese gets smoked. So that's where the smoke flavor comes from. So the two separate things, and then we combine it. So I like cumin and I like smoke, but I'm not a big fan of both flavors. But together, I think it is a very interesting flavor. And shredded over tacos or nachos, or chili, it is really wonderful. And the original cumin, so only the cumin, is very traditional for Holland. So again, the cumin, the burning nettle are very traditional flavors for Holland.
I think this is like a smart approach to smoked Gouda. You know, it's like, I think so many Americans like expect there to be a smoked Gouda and everybody wants that profile. And this is just, again, like smoked in a really delicate way. It's really differentiated from other smoked Goudas on the market, and having that cumin note in it just really levels it up. I paired this with a little bit of Underground Meats Calabrian like red sausage, and it's just like a smoky, porky taco bite. It's so good.
oh, yeah.
What is B with a Bloody Mary? Would that be a good combination?
Yes, I think so. Absolutely.
So I just a fun fact about Gouda. So I told the first couple of years, I told everybody that visit me about Gouda. I told them that Gouda was discovered in Gouda, just like Kobe is discovered in Kobe, Wisconsin. Come to find out that there is not 1 pound of Gouda produced in the town called Gouda. But what happened in Holland, there were a lot of farmers would make Gouda, would make cheese, a farmstead cheese, and they would go to the market in Gouda to trade it. So in Gouda, that's where they were selling the cheese, and that's why it's called after the place that they were selling their Gouda. So of Gouda. And the town, actually it is Goudse kaas. So a lot of people say Gouda, but that's the town. And in Gouda, that's where the Goudse kaas was being traded and sold on the market. Yeah, just a little side note. But there's not 1 pound of Gouda produced in Gouda. So.
Yeah,
well, here we produce a lot of different flavors of Gouda. Like I mentioned, we have the 7 plain Goudas, and then we have 21 different flavors of Goudas, including seasonal Goudas, which we want to spend a little bit of time highlighting because they are really fun flavors, such as the Summerfields. When you taste the Summerfields, it just reminds you of your garden. It's rosemary, thyme, garlic, tomato, onion. It's a very flavorful cheese. I like that one a lot.
Melted over bread, or, you know, the rosemary.
Yeah.
It's really delicious.
And right now, fourth quarter, you'll find our cranberry cheese, which is our plain Gouda with Wisconsin cranberries. We use unsweetened cranberries in that one.
Yes, it's a very seasonal one. And I think dipped in cranberry sauce even enhanced the flavor to it.
Mhm. We also do a hatch pepper. Our hatch pepper is available during the summer months and is very popular in some of our southern markets.
And for the ones that can resist a little heat more than I do. So, yeah.
Yeah, we do have a couple of the peppery cheeses. We have the jalapeno. Again, the balance of the flavor is there. The heat comes at the finish and it's not very overpowering. Marika doesn't like things super hot, so we're never going to have like a ghost pepper.
Well, we might.
Maybe if somebody wants to do a special order, we'd make it for them.
And then we have the chipotle. So I think actually the chipotle is might have a little bit more of a kick than the jalapeno. So I think that's with the jalapeno, everybody expects it super hot, and it isn't. So. But then again, we have like the burning nettle, which a lot of people think it's gonna burn your mouth, and it doesn't either. So yeah. Sometimes the expectations are different than what's actually really happens in your mouth.
Yep.
Then we have the clove. I have to tell you, the clove is one of my favorite, and it's and they call it the Friese nagelkaas in Holland, and it has clove in it, real clove, and a handful of cumin. And it's one of my favorite. It's kind of a Christmas-y cheese. I think it tastes like a dried sausage, or so because with meat we use some clove too. So I think it's a really good one too.
Yeah.
We have a bunch of questions, so I don't know if you guys are ready to take some questions from the gallery here. Lacey wanted to know, and I'm not sure if you'll have this answer, whether the fenugreek will still have some effects of helping breastfeeding mothers in this form, in the cheese form.
Yes, they do. The fenugreek does have some lactating benefits to them. I would suggest eating at least a wheel a day. That would really. I'm just kidding, but it does. All the bits helps.
Okay, and then when did you begin hickory smoking?
We did it actually I think maybe into our second year. So we're almost into our 14th year. 22 November is going to be our 14th year. It was very late that night because we started around noon because of all kinds of things. We couldn't fill the cheese vat, and it was like 3 a.m. in the morning when we finally were done. But I think it took 2 years later when we started actually with no check, when Lindsay's dad was still involved in the business. We started, but then we had to, then inspector came, and apparently they were not state approved, or they were missing some kind of, so then we went down the road to Gilman, and they have been smoking for us ever since, but both were really good. But so yeah, I would think somewhere in 2008 already.
So, and a related question about smoking, Christine wants to know, did you experiment with how long to smoke for best flavor?
We haven't. So we left that up because I'm a true believer in everybody is a professional in their own field. I'm not a smoker at all. And so they tried, but actually we're very lucky. We haven't been able, we didn't need to feed the cheese to the pigs or anything. So we were very lucky and fortunate that way.
Okay, Adela wants to know if there's any seasonality to the flavors, or are they available year round?
The large majority of the flavors are available year round. And then the seasonal ones that are kind of listed on the bottom. So the hatch, we talked about the Summerfields. The Summerfields is actually becoming more popular. So we do have inventory of that year round. So I would say the cranberry and the hatch pepper are probably the most seasonal. And then we would just need to make sure we're getting orders like 4 months prior to when you want them due to the production and aging process.
And are the seasonal flavors available in exact weight?
That's a very good question. They are not today, but they probably will be in the very near future. Last week we had our exact weight cutting equipment installed, and we're currently using it right now today. It's super exciting. So currently we offer 11 of our top selling flavors in the exact weights. And
we can do it now all.
We can do special orders.
We just have to get the label up and running. But we can cut any flavor now. Now we're not dependable on outsourcing them. We can keep them in-house because we're a big one that we like to keep our circle a little bit tight. It almost sounds like El Capone, I would think. But yeah, with cross-contaminations and all those things. Everybody does a wonderful job or not, but yeah, we like to keep it in-house.
So we are recently this year, we're SQF certified level 3. So, you know, yes, we do cut our everything in-house now. And the other benefit to us cutting it in-house is it extends the shelf life on the product as well when we're not working with a converter.
Okay, I think we got time for about 3 more questions. So from Patrick, hi Patrick, what is your most aged Gouda?
That's a mammoth wheel. Unfortunately, nobody will ever touch that wheel because it's in our aging room, and I'm not sure what to do with it, but I might just keep it and hang it on the wall. It's about 35 pounds. It's a huge wheel. We have just a couple malts that we can make some really humongous wheels. And so we still have one from December 1st, 2006. So that's gonna have his 14th year. We do have a lot of, we have a decent supply of 3 years, I think. So we do have some regular 2 to 3 year old Goudas too. But we have been, we have had a crazy year. We went from a little dip in March, like everybody involved, and now we're doing really good. And I always say that there's so many good Goudas out there. But if you don't have the Marieke Gouda between your selection just isn't complete. So I think we are different than other ones. We're farmstead, we're local, we're domestic, we're American-made Gouda. Where well, just between us, I don't think the Dutch send their best Goudas overseas. No, I don't think so. I think they're keeping it for themselves, and good for them. Not to discriminate, but well, we are in a very female-oriented chapter of the world, and so we love. I think between all those handsome cheesemakers, it's just nice to see a couple female cheesemakers out there. So I think that's one of our strong points. We're award-winning, so we are recognized for our consistency, which I'm really proud of. And I love it when people come and see how we milk our cows, how we take care of when people interact with animals. The cows are just wonderful, wonderful animals. So I actually have a cow protection program in place. So even though the farmer isn't always well, because it's still a business, at the end we still have to make money. But we have a couple cows that cannot leave this farm, and they will retire, and we call them our brand ambassador to make the farmer a little bit more happier. So yeah, we have a couple, and unfortunately one of my favorite cows just passed away about 3-4 weeks ago, my Loretta. So you will see her with many pictures everywhere. But she became older, and yeah, but she had a good life.
It happens to all of us. We don't like it, but it does happen if we're lucky. This is one of those 60,000 foot questions. What are some talking points to sell raw milk cheese to those who are new to it?
That's a really good one. I think in general, raw milk, one of the things that, because it has that, well, people are a little bit taken back with bacteria, and I always say, just imagine you have 2 cheese fats. You have one that is pasteurized, and you have a cheese fat that is not pasteurized. So in pasteurized, we kill everything, all the good and all the bad, but all the good too. Now you put a pathogen in both. You put something in the cheese fat. Salmonella, Listeria, you put it in. What do you think will happen? What will happen in the pasteurized cheese fat? What will happen in the raw milk cheese fat? So in the pasteurized, right, you killed everything, but you really killed everything. There's no resistance of fighting back their bacteria. Where versus the raw milk, it still has resistance to fight that off. So that's one of the things I always tell people. And when you think about it, it makes sense. Another thing is you have to have the right protocols in place. So everything can be bad, but we have the 60-day rule. We are farmstead, so the milk comes straight from the cows into our cheese fat. We have nothing to hide because the milk source there's only one milk source, and that are our own cows. So that's a couple things. And then plus, I believe in raw milk not only because it has more flavor to it. I truly believe also that it's healthier because with pasteurization, you damage the molecule. And with whole milk, when everything is still intact, your body digests it so much better. So I don't think it's not the cheese or the milk, the whole milk, that is causing the high cholesterol. I think the donuts that's fried in sugar is the issue that you had this morning.
What?
Well, maybe we'll do a cheese and donut pairing next. Just
Yeah.
So yeah, there are many things. And in France, you even have liquid milk out on the street. So
Yep.
some dairy farmers, I noticed that they are actually against selling raw milk. And I always say with everything, it's with the immigration issue, it's with the alcohol, it's with the raw milk. Why do we say it's not allowed? Why don't we allow it and then we can regulate it? So I think the ones that actually allow it, they have control, they can regulate it, they can give the producer that are selling, they can give them stipulations that they have to meet. If we say it's not allowed, like in Wisconsin, it's not allowed, you have no control. At that point, you lost control about what's going to happen, because it's going to happen under the table. So I'm all for allowing things, but then you can regulate it. So.
Okay. So we're essentially at our hour. I don't know, Molly, did you want to ask? There's a question I know that you were burning to ask. I don't know if it got answered.
I think all of my questions got answered today. So I think that we're really close to the hour here. There's a couple of questions about like distribution that are floating out there. So I have jotted down some contact info and those type of questions. So I'll be handing that off to Marika and Laurie to make sure that they can follow up with you guys. And yeah, besides that, I think that pretty much concludes our program for the day. So,
Really? Are we done? No.
Final word.
You can dance.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Spotted cow is kicking in.
This hour just flew. You guys were fabulous.
Good.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I sure miss dancing with you, Stephanie.
Soon again.
Soon again.
Hopefully this year or next year,
That would be fun.
2021. So.
I miss you all, everyone. Come visit us here at Marieke Gouda here in Thorpe, and or visit us. My contact information should be around there somewhere. So
Yep.
Yeah, can call, text me, anything, anybody, anytime.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here today. And, thanks Marika and Laurie, thanks to all the attendees, and a huge thanks to the folks at Counterculture for bringing us all together today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Gouda still.
Yeah, we love these opportunities. So thank you everyone for joining us and making it happen.